Let's talk about the energy themes for April 2024. So, coming from March, we're still in that space where there's so much happening because we came out of the Equinox, which was very strong. There was a lunar eclipse, and then we're heading towards the solar eclipse on the 8th of April now. Mercury went retrograde, and then Aries, the fiery season. So there was a lot, and there's still a lot. We're in this window, this gap, of a lot of energy coming towards us and within us. So the first thing that this might do, and it's something that I've been noticing as well with some people that I've been working with, is that they're feeling a lot. So they're feeling a lot of emotions. So, there could be a roller coaster of emotions, and some days you're feeling sad for no reason, the next day you're feeling great, or even during the day you're going through those ups and downs. So it's really important to just observe and feel them to the best of your ability, without judgment, because it's really just energy moving through you. You might be feeling also very tired, because there's a lot of information coming towards us. And I'll talk a little bit about this in a few minutes. What for me personally, and I feel like for the collective, the main theme, and it's something that we're still experiencing, the main theme from the equinox was that theme of death and rebirth, right? Beginning, end. And so this feeling of death and rebirth, you might still be feeling that very strong. So you might already be feeling like some timelines have been closed. And even if you can't necessarily rationalize, because the mind wants to rationalize things and understand, oh yeah, this is because of my childhood and because of that past lifetime, blah 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 blah. But really, it's if you allow yourself to feel that, even if it just you don't know exactly what it is, just allow yourself to feel. And if there is a sense of closure, and we'll talk about timelines in a little bit, that is because it's coming from this energy of death and rebirth from the equinox. Okay. And last month, too, the Pleiadians were talking a lot about that process of letting go, death and rebirth, releasing and bringing the new. And they were focusing a lot on that grief aspect as well, which I think it's important because, we can change our perspective as well, and see grief as a tool for our expansion more than avoid it, even though it won't feel great. Okay. And it will feel messy. And yeah, sometimes it kind of lingers on and on, right? Little prompt is just a reflection. Where am I feeling a sense of closure? And is it asking me to take action? Because I think that's kind of one of the things that your mind wants to jump into, which is, if there's a feeling of closure, or if there isn't a feeling of closure, do I need to make a decision? Do I need to take action? Okay. So this is more, the first part of the prompt is more for your emotional body, and the second part is more for your mental, for your mind. All right, and let's talk about these eclipse energies, right? That we're in it already, okay? So like I said in the beginning of the video, April feels like a very important month in terms of the evolution of consciousness for the collective, for Mother Earth, but obviously for us individually as well, because we are our mother, we are it, we are the cells of this planet. So whatever is coming towards Earth, whatever Earth is going through, it's also happening within us. And so the analogy that I want to give you, for this solar eclipse, is because we have this, the sun, and then we have the shadow, right? shadow of the moon, sort of blocking the sun for a few minutes. I think it's maybe like 4 minutes. Obviously, the whole journey takes longer, but that moment where the sun is blocked and there's this ring of light that we see lasts for a few minutes. And I don't know if you can see it from anywhere in the world. I think only a few parts, mostly in the northern hemisphere, that you can see it. But just imagine, a pipe, a water pipe, or even like a faucet or a tap, right? There's water flowing. Okay, so imagine that this water that's flowing, it's the sun um shining on us, right? Sending those solar flares and sending information because light is information. So the sun is just doing its job to send us light. So imagine that, well, on top of the fact that the sun has been um, more active and sending more and more energy and more new light codes because we're in this process of ascension, and so this is just going to increase. But imagine that for 4 minutes, you just kind of close that flow of the water from the pipe. Okay. So even if it's just for a few minutes, what's gonna happen if unblock that pipe, right? Just a blast of water, right? Lots and lots of water. The pipe might even burst out. So that analogy is just telling us that, after this eclipse, there will be more solar flares and solar flashes because those light codes will be coming in even more strong. Okay, so it's good because we're feeling those new light codes and we can actually receive them, but it can be intense as well. That's why it's really important for us to ground, to open our hearts, to receive, to rest, to integrate. Okay, so this is just a little analogy of the energies that we're going to be receiving through the eclipse energy. And when we're talking about the eclipse too, we're talking about the shadow and light aspect, right? Because there is the shadow of the moon blocking the light. That's also an opportunity for us to look at the shadow more clearly. And so there is a lot of karmic cycles and timelines coming up for closure for you. How does this show up? Old memories coming up for you, showing up out of the blue. And you're like, why am I thinking about that day in high school? Or even past life memories that might be coming back to you in thoughts, but also in dreams. So you might be having some weird dreams or dreams that you might not know why you're having that memory, or you're dreaming about, I don't know, living in France in 1600s and not even understanding because you don't speak French, right? So these are old memories that are coming up, that are showing up for you for closure and for release. So if it's coming back, if you have those memories, instead of you judging it and regretting it, just in the back of your mind, just remember this is coming up for closure. This is coming up for release. Can I be grateful about that for whatever lesson I had to learn and let it go? Okay. So that's us looking at the shadow. And then when there's that flash, that blast of light right after the shadow, after the eclipse, it's it also means we're receiving those light codes, that information, but because there's more light, there's also more clarity. There's more clarity and there's more energy, there's more power to you, for you to manifest all the things that you've been wanting to manifest or that you've been planning or that you've been working on. So it's a little bit of a paradox, right? Because on the one side, you're like releasing and healing and looking at the shadow and and just releasing all those, old timelines and karmic cycles. And then there's also the light aspect, which is there's more clarity. Maybe you're just like, this is what I want to do. You're just gaining more and more clarity on your path. Maybe there's more ideas, more downloads coming up for you, okay? Or coming down for you. So a little affirmation. I stay in my heart center where it is safe to continue to evolve. This is all part of the evolution. And yes, at times it can feel a little wobbly and feel a little too intense. Remember to come back to your heart. And even if you just tell yourself, I stay in my heart center, it's safe. It's safe to evolve because all of these little things that are happening in your evolution process might not feel very comfortable, might feel too intense, but just remember, keep it in the back of your mind that it's part of the evolution process. So there is no turning back really. And so the place to turn to is your heart because your heart is the safe container. Okay. The emotional roller coaster might still be active, okay, during this eclipse season. And like I mentioned, there is a lot of light coming towards Earth and us. Light is information. If you receive a lot of information, and I'm not even like talking about light now, just in terms of like your mind, right? If you learned a lot of information, a lot of new information, but you don't put it into practice or you don't wait to integrate that information, then it's just wasted information, right? You just spent a lot of time reading something, learning about something, but it just became that knowledge piece in your mental realm, okay? So that's why it's really imperative that we find time to integrate, okay? Because when we're talking about energy, it's the same idea. So you're receiving a lot of energy, even if you have your heart open and if you're like, yes, come on, Ascension, I'm ready for this. Come on, son, I'm ready for this. My heart is open, right? You're like this. You really, really need time to integrate, especially if you're an empath, starseed, a light worker, right? Because we are kind of like in the forefront of this, receiving that first, okay? If your default is to go, 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 you're always doing things, you're always on the go, then prioritize stillness, meditation, connection with spirit, connection with higher self. Otherwise, you're just going to keep going, 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 and you're just going to be taken over by this wave of light that's coming, that's already among us and in us, and is just going to be very overwhelming. Okay, so prioritize having 5 minutes, 10 minutes of stillness, whatever you can. I know life happens, but just prioritize that. If your default is to actually go there and want to stay there all the time, and there I mean in stillness and in hermit mode and just, stay in your heart and you just want to meditate every day, all day, then what you actually need is more grounding and more embodiment practices. Okay, so you probably need to focus more on the lower chakras, your feet, making sure that you have your feet on the ground and if you can, you can put your feet on the grass, on the soil, and just embodiment practices, which could be exercising, yoga, whatever it is that you can do to make sure that your body is strong, your body is ready for this. Okay. And you could also be in between these two, right? Which is quote unquote ideal, right? There isn't an ideal because life happens and we're just riding along the waves, right? And doing our best. But you could be finding that balance between embodiment, grounding, and stillness and meditation. Okay. But just you know yourself better than anyone else. So if you're someone that you're always on the go, you don't have time to meditate or life has been too busy, prioritize that connection with the heart, connection with the spirit. If you're somebody that wants your default is to connect with your spirit and with your heart, make sure that your body is strong, make sure that you're grounded. Okay, there's no prompt, but more of a practice. Just again, see what's the best practice for you. Daily meditation, grounding, embodiment practices for optimal integration. And it does seem like this integration process is right now is happening more in the emotional body and in the physical body, more than the mental and the spiritual. That's why I said earlier, like, don't spend too much time trying to analyze things because the mind wants to analyze things, but sometimes it doesn't really help much because you're just adding to the stress. And the spirit too, the spirit is just receiving that light. The spirit, your soul knows, your soul is your anchor point for that, to find that connection with spirit, with your heart. Yeah, between now, today, the 8th of April, which is the solar eclipse, and around around 22nd of April, really make sure that you rest, you integrate, that you're prepared for this influx of energies. So to the best of your ability, you know, amp up your spiritual practice or your multidimensional practice. Okay, because this is a multidimensional practice. It's not just a spiritual practice, but when you take care of your body, that's also part of this multidimensional approach to your daily practices. The next theme is what I also mentioned earlier, which is related to timelines. So timelines closing and quantum leaps. There are many old timelines closing on a collective level, but let's talk about the individual level too. And there are also many new ones opening and becoming available. When you think of the quantum field being that field with infinite probabilities, these probabilities are the timelines, right? Some of these timelines are expiring, okay? And that is the process of evolution as well. Some of those old timelines that can be old karmic cycles, lessons learned, lessons integrated, they are, for our linear mind, they are in the past. And then there are new ones available. Okay. One thing, and it's a message that came through, I think it was this week or last week in the Pleiadian channel, in my Pleiadian channel Instagram, which is just a little reminder because I don't feel like it's talked about enough because I see a lot of people talking about jumping timelines and choosing the highest timeline for you. But what the Palladian said is that you can't jump timelines by focusing on the future or on the future possible timelines available because there are infinite ones. Okay. You do that by focusing on the present moment, where you are. Okay. If you're not focused on the present moment, there's no way you can jump timelines. What you're doing, you're just focusing on the future, but forgetting where you are. And you just need to focus on the present moment, be okay with the present moment, be okay with where you are, and actually release the old shadow, release what's no longer serving you, serving your highest good, so that you can jump into the next timeline. And also just trust that your next or your highest timeline is the timeline that you're in right now. Because your linear mind will say, well, but my present moment right now doesn't feel good, doesn't feel nice. It's not ideal. But if you trust that this is the timeline that you need to be on right now, and until you accept that you can't move past that, then there is no jumping timelines. And we have to be courageous to shift and evolve. And being courageous means staying in the present moment, wherever it is that you are, whatever it is that's going through. Trust that is your time, your highest timeline, or which will always be the case, the stepping stone to your next highest timeline. Okay, hope this makes sense. And the same is happening on a more collective level because Mother Earth is at a pivotal time, quantum leaping into another octave. And so because this is happening, this brings us the opportunity to quote unquote ride that wave, right? So it's always like this. Mother Earth is feeling, is receiving lights, is going through her healing, going through her ascension. And so this gives us the opportunity to choose to ride along that. Okay. And the same thing happens, the same applies for the 5D ascension in general, right? Some people are choosing not to ride that ascension wave. And they might not necessarily be aware that they're not choosing, but their soul might be. But if you're here and if this is resonating with you, then you want to ride that wave, even if it might feel like there's resistance or it might feel like, oh my God, it's too much. You want to ride that wave. So a few prompts, it's what is coming up for me for release, which is similar to what I talked about earlier. If there's anything coming up for you in terms of memories, just remember that it's coming up for release. And today is also a great practice for you to just feel whatever it is that might be buried in your subconscious mind that you might be reluctant to be feeling. Today is a good opportunity to feel that. And very important, can I find gratitude in it, right? Can I find the gratitude for everything that I've been through, for everything that my soul has been through, so that I can jump into the next timeline? How can you jump into the next timeline if you can't find the gratitude? So gratitude is also a really important aspect for this jumping timeline concept. And an affirmation to that so simple, but it can be so helpful is I trust that I am always in my highest timeline. Which you can also say something that I say often to myself, which is I am right where I'm meant to be. I am right where I'm meant to be. When your mind starts going, but what if and why can't blah, 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 and all the possibilities, take a pause. Tell yourself, I trust I am always in my highest timeline. I am right where I'm meant to be. Okay. That's that's a way to strengthen your muscle, your trust muscle. Okay. The last theme is because we're in Aries season. Let me know if any of you are Aries. I'm star rising. My star rising is Aries. Aries season might be bringing a sense of adventure, or maybe just a desire to experience new adventures, a desire to go to experience more adventures that could be maybe trips or moves or new projects or learning new things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do this month, but it's just that desire that's kind of like bubbling up because Aries can be, very adventurous and they don't think too much about making the decisions. They just go and do it. And for me as a my sun is in Capricorn, so it's a good balance because the Aries in me, I have to thank the Aries in me because it gave me the courage to take many leaps of faith in my life because the Capricorn wants to be secure and wants to make sure that we have everything planned. And so I thank my Aries for just pushing me to do things in a more spontaneous way too. And also this season might be bringing an easiness in saying no to the things that you don't want to do or the things that aren't aligned with your heart and with your soul. Especially if you're an empath or you are or have been a people pleaser, right? That's very sovereign. That's a good aspect, talking about duality, good or bad, but it's a good aspect of the Aries. It's just like, I don't want to do it, I won't do it, right? And trust that, and with kindness and assertiveness, you can say this, right? And this can actually be very healing. And you can actually, it could bring up some resistance, but if you manage to move through it, it can feel really good to just be like, I said no when I wanted to say no. Wow. The ego will say, oh, maybe you should be feeling guilty about it. Or maybe, maybe you weren't nice. Maybe people are looking at you as the villain of the story. But if you continue to focus on your Aries energy, just ask yourself, how does it feel to be more authentic and to be true to my heart and to what feels aligned with my soul and my heart. So that's the prompt, how does it feel to be more spontaneous and to be more authentic? If you are the opposite, like if you are a very spontaneous person and it's easy for you to be authentic and say no, you know, do I need or how does it feel then to be a little bit more structured, a little bit more not rigid, but just a little bit more planned? Okay. And again, there can be a lot of healing that can take place when you allow this energy in. So these are the themes for April. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, but also if you're here live, let me know in the chat box which one of these kind of resonated mostly with you. And that's also a great opportunity for you to practice your intuition. Which one of these kind of just resonated mostly with your heart? Death and rebirth energy that's coming from the equinox. All of the eclipse energies that I talked about, the timelines closing, quantum leaps, and the Aries season, fiery, adventurous energy.